Good morning. Welcome, and thank you for coming to today's Developing Value-Added Agriculture Businesses workshop. My name is Hal Pepper. I'm with the Center for Profitable Agriculture, and this workshop is for any producer who is considering submitting an application for USDA's Value-Added Producer Grant Program. We're excited to have 115 participants registered for today's workshop. This is the third year that our team has conducted this workshop. We held two back in 2017 and 3 workshops in 2020. But this is the first time that we've conducted this workshop online. And while we would rather conduct the workshop in person, doing it virtually provides the unique opportunity to easily record the workshop. And that's something I've wanted to do since the beginning, is to record it. This really presents us that opportunity to do it. So please be aware that we are recording the workshop and that we plan to post the recorded sessions on the center's website along with the handouts and PowerPoint slides. We hope that the information that will be presented will be useful to anyone who may submit a value-added producer grant application, whether it's this year or in a future year. We recognize that sometimes it takes a year or more to adequately develop a value-added idea and put budgets together, financing together, and put a plan together with all the right people. Please keep your audio muted so that we can reduce the amount of background noise. The value-added producer grant program can really help a producer with a value-added idea get his or her idea off the ground by sharing in the cost of planning activities or certain working capital expenses that are related to processing and marketing a value-added product. The focus of this workshop is to help producers who are already producing an agricultural commodity, help them identify people, agencies, and resources that are available to assist them in developing a value-added idea or enterprise, specifically with the intention of submitting a value-added producer grant application. We also want to help you have all of the available resources to help you achieve success in your value-added business. We're going to introduce several people on our program today with USDA, University of Tennessee, Ag Launch, and Tennessee Department of Agriculture. All of us want to help you succeed in your value-added business. As I mentioned, I'm Hal Pepper. I'm a financial analysis specialist with University of Tennessee Center for Profitable Agriculture. My areas of expertise are in value-added dairy, value-added poultry, meat processing, business planning, and financial analysis. Chuck Morris, USDA Rural Business Cooperative Service Program Specialist and State Energy Coordinator for USDA Rural Development, is going to be on the program. You really want to get to know the folks at your region's USDA Rural Development Office because they can help you avoid the mistake of including ineligible items in your application. And if you get your application into them far enough ahead of time before the deadline, they may be able to review your application and make suggestions that will help your application score better. I'm going to try to share a screen here with you that contains a map. This is a map of the USDA Rural Development Offices with the list of contacts, their email addresses, their phone numbers. I have emailed all of you who registered a copy of this map. In fact, I sent an updated version of it just a few minutes ago. But some valuable information there as to how you can get in contact with USDA Rural Development folks. Another person that is on this program is Troy Duggar. He is the program coordinator with the Center for Profitable Agriculture. Troy's focus includes beginning farmer programs, and right now he's pinch hitting at our center for our director, Rob Holland, who's on a special assignment as the interim assistant dean for Extension A&R and CED. Also, we have Pete Nelson and Jade Clark with Ag Launch. Pete is the executive director and Jade is the director with Ag Launch. Ag Launch supports ag tech companies and builds new value chains and collaborates with an innovative group of farmers to support business development and mentor diverse young talent and find new approaches to farming. Another presenter that we have is Will Freeman. He is a business consultant with Tennessee Department of Agriculture. He's going to share some information about some cost share opportunities and other programs available through TDA. We're also going to hear from Rick Riddle, who is the owner-operator of the winery at Seven Springs Farm. He's going to share some lessons learned with the Value-Added Producer Grant Program. Rick has quite an impressive track record in writing applications for the Value-Added Producer Grant. After lunch, Ann Wilkinson, owner of Origin Farms, will share some tips from her perspective as a grant writer, business planner. Ann has written multiple applications for the Value-Added Producer Grant that have been accepted. You will not want to miss her presentation. David Hughes will share insight on the steps to submitting a strong package, what to do, what not to do in preparing your proposal, and how to make it score better when the grant reviewers consider it. And finally, at the end, we'll have an hour for you to ask questions about developing your ideas and submitting your proposals one-on-one with Dr. Hughes, Ag Launch, and myself after the presentations. So what I want to say is get to know these folks who want to help you develop a successful application. Get on their email list so you will know about upcoming workshops and resources that they have available because we want to see Tennessee get more of these Value-Added Producer Grant awards. You should have received an email with the handouts and the PowerPoint slides for today's workshop. We'll be posting them along with the recording on the center's website. You may hear some points made multiple times, and that's okay. For some of us, myself included, I need to hear an idea several times before it becomes my own. My wife will attest to that fact. Before the workshop started, we played recordings of producers who have received a Value-Added Producer Grant, and we'll play more of these during the break for lunch. The recordings may be accessed on the Agricultural Marketing Resource Center website. And now I'm going to try to share another list here. This is a list of Value-Added Producer Grant recipients since 2014 in Tennessee. And again, I sent this list to those of you who pre-registered. Some recipients, you may notice, have received more than one award over time. And so if you get one of these awards, keep in mind that you can go back and submit another application for a different product or a different idea to add new markets and customers, or you may even want to consider forming an association. If you notice, the Appalachian Regional Wine Producers Association and the Tennessee Farm Wine Growers Alliance have received this grant. So you can form an association. For instance, we've had several creameries that have received this grant. Well, they may want to consider joining together and forming a brand and developing new markets for their dairy products. That would certainly be something worth considering. Okay, well, we're going to jump right into our presentations. One more thing I want to mention, though, is there will be an online evaluation that we hope that you will complete to let us know what information was helpful and how we can improve this workshop in the future. I'll put that link in the chat box. I'll also be sending an email with a link to this evaluation. So if you don't get around to completing the evaluation today, we hope you can complete it in the next few days. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And turn it over to Mr. Chuck Morris. Chuck, we're really glad to have you with us today. Look forward to what you've got to say to us.
Well, thanks, Hal. I'm looking forward to talking to everyone today. I wanted to introduce myself, and I'm also going to take a minute and let our staff all pop on for just a second to introduce before I start sharing the screen. Like Hal said, I'm Chuck Morris. I'm the VAPG program coordinator for Tennessee. And guys, we appreciate everyone coming out today, and we hope this can lead to some applications. We had a good year last year, and we'd love to see this year be even better. So anything we can do, me or the field staff at all, or our Audia Hall, our program director, she can help as well. So anything we can do, just please let us know. And with that, I'll turn it over to Audia to start the introductions.
Thank you. My name is Adia Holland. As Chuck said, I'm the program director for the state of Tennessee in business programs and cooperative programs. I used to do what Chuck is doing right now, and now I'm working as a program director, and I still oversee the program, but I needed some help for someone to really concentrate on the program, because it is a very valuable program that directly helps ag producers. This one and our energy programs are the only two programs that directly affect ag producers. In addition to that, I know that Chuck, being in the field office, has had a lot of experience with a lot of successful projects in his area in the value added. So besides just bringing you the knowledge of the program, he can bring some of the experience in working with those value-added participants. So I'm glad he has stepped up to this role, and he's a great addition, and he'll bring even more knowledge that I could have done. But it's a pleasure. I'm here for a while to answer some questions, and if there is any other questions, you can always email us on the contact list.
I think I'm next. My name is Valerie Specker. I am the contact person for the Renewable area office. And if there's anybody that's planning on applying in that area, I would be glad to help you any way that I can throughout the application process. I processed applications for Nashville last year, and we had 3 successful applications. I really enjoy this program, and like I said, I'd be happy to help in any way that I can.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Chance Lamb. Just give an opportunity to put a face with a name on the contact sheet that you guys have there in front of you. I primarily serve the Knoxville area, or actually recently took Chuck's place when he moved into our state office. And I know he's had a tremendous portfolio in the region in the past. And so, you know, any projects that you guys have in the region, we'd love to take a look at it. And I'm certainly here as a resource and a contact to answer any questions you have and to look at any potential projects you have. So I look forward to working with you and look forward to hearing from you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Battle. I work in the Chattanooga area office. I serve Grundy, Sequatchie, Marion, Bledsoe, Ray, Meigs, Hamilton, Bradley, McMinn, and Polk County. So if you're in any of those counties, please feel free to reach out to me. I look forward to working with you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Josh Wilkerson, and I cover the 14 counties of the Upper Cumberland region out of the Cookeville area office. Looking very much forward to working with any of you, and if you have any applications, feel free to reach out to me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon Silcott. I'm the newest specialist out of the Lawrenceburg office. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. As the newest specialist, Ro is working with me, but like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Look forward to working with everyone.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ro Hughes. I am the area specialist in Jackson, Tennessee, covering the 12 counties in Southwest Tennessee. I know last year, Hal, we did this down in Memphis and had a great turnout in person. I wish we could have done that again this year, but obviously circumstances have changed. I will say, even though we had a big turnout last year, we did not get a VAPG application out of that meeting, but we did get a REAP application that we successfully funded last year. So in today's session, we're obviously focused on VAPG, but I would encourage all the producers, all the participants to be sure you stay in contact with your local USDA Rural Development Office for all the many grants, loans, products that we have to offer, because it might not just be VAPG that you're eligible for or might be interested in. So glad to be here today. Looking forward to hearing from everybody. And again, I'm in Jackson, Tennessee and Southwest Tennessee. Looking forward to working with you all any way that I can. Thank you.
Not sure if we've got one more specialist. I'm not sure if he's made it on. Tyler Hayes. Tyler covers our Union City area. Doesn't appear that he's made it on, so we'll have to. But
he's on, Chuck. He's on. You just Tyler. I think you're still muted. I see him talking.
Oh, okay.
Hey guys.
There you go.
Hey. You got me, Chuck?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Hey, I'm Tyler Hayes. Last but not least, but I cover the Northwest Tennessee region out of the Union City office. So it's a pleasure to meet with you guys today.
Okay, so that is all of our field staff, and guys, thank you all for coming on. I just wanted everyone to have an opportunity to meet them, and I wanted to reiterate on one thing that Ro had said. Definitely keep all of our other programs in mind, because there are some other good program opportunities out there. And in addition to that, I wanted to go ahead and plug that we have an upcoming training session very similar to this that UT is working on us with for the REAP program on February the 9th. So keep your eyes peeled for that. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen now. Okay, so value added is a program that changes a little bit from year to year, so it's always good to get a refresher every year when they write our NOSA, notice solicitation of applications. There's little changes, but the purpose of the program is to provide funds for economic planning activities for eligible working capital expenses to enable viable agricultural producers to develop businesses that produce market value added agricultural products and create marketing opportunities for such businesses. Okay, so can everyone see the presentation?
It's not on, Chuck.
Oh, okay. It showed up on that screen, so I thought it was on. I apologize. Let me see if I can. Not sure why it's not showing. Let me try sharing the screen first. Here we go. I think I got it now. I apologize. It popped up over on my other screen and I thought it was sharing.
We got it.
Can you see it now? I'm okay. I'm gonna make it full screen.
We can see it.
Okay, you can see it now?
We can see it.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. All right. So basically I'll start then, since y'all couldn't see what I was. So the purpose of the program, it provides funds for economic planning activities or eligible working capital expenses to enable viable agricultural producers to develop businesses that produce and market value-added agricultural products and help create marketing opportunities for such businesses. So this is kind of the thing I like that this is here. What VAPG is not. So guys, it's not a job training program. It's not intended to teach people how to farm, and it's not a technical assistance program. It's not for R&D or commercialization of a process or tool. It's not a loan program, and it's not intended as a continuous stream of capital. So the basics of the program. This year we have $33 million in funding. Paper applications are due on March 22nd, and you can submit electronically via grant.gov, but it's actually due by March 16th, so it's a little sooner if you go the electronic route. The maximum grant for planning is $75,000, and the maximum for working capital is $250,000. So it requires a matching, a one-to-one match. So for every dollar of grant you get, you have to put a dollar of match in. It can be cash or eligible in-kind contributions, as long as they're used for eligible project purposes. Your grant period can only be up to 36 months, with a one-time 12-month extension considered on a case-by-case basis. That's something we try to avoid, but in a situation like if you had one this year and COVID affected you, obviously that's something we could definitely consider. We try to keep it within the 36-month parameter of the program. And I saw this earlier in chat, there is no rural requirement for the program. So funding priorities. Reserve funds ensure that a minimum of 10% of the total funds are available for awards to applicants from these categories. The categories are beginning, farmer, veteran, and socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers, mid-tier value chains, and persistent poverty counties. So here's a little info on the past with VAPG in the state of Tennessee. So, well, actually, this is nationwide here, this initially. So that's how many applications were received in FY20. That tells you how many were eligible, and this tells you how many were funded. So 348 applications out of 512 were actually funded. So that last year was a very successful year nationwide. So this tells you the awards by grant. So as you can see, working capital is the majority of what's funded. This tells you grant amount average, 166,000 on average, 173,000 average for working capital, and average planning is 35,000. The Tennessee value-added dollars, and I guess that's what everybody really cares about here. In Tennessee, last year we got $2,085,790. That was 12 projects funded, which was great, guys. Compared to years in the years past, you can see the 17-18 year was 541,000 and 356 and 16. So we're on an upward tick with the funding, and I hope we can keep it going in that direction. Tennessee VAPG projects number awarded, as I'd mentioned, there were 12 last year. I think there were 5 in 17-18 and 4 in 16. So basic program requirements: applicant eligibility, project eligibility, purpose eligibility, and other eligibility requirements, and then the evaluation criteria. So this is a little different than a lot of grants. This is one that you must be very detailed when you're putting this application together. And I feel like you'll get that stressed during some of the later presentations. I think you'll definitely hear that. So starting with applicant eligibility. All applicant types must meet the definition of agricultural producer. So that definition is an individual or entity that produces an agricultural commodity through the participation in day-to-day labor management and field operations. So informative projects, I feel like this is going to be one that we hear more about this year than we have in the past. So VAPG applications proposing projects related to hemp as defined in the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018 will be considered for funding if the project meets all program eligibility requirements, including currently producing hemp as a valid producer, license, and verifiable compliance with regulations. So guys, in a nutshell, Tennessee is covered under 2018. So if you have a valid license, that allows you to meet it from that standpoint. But as far as the agency is concerned, there are several other people regulating this, including Food and Drug Administration, different things. So we would highly recommend, if you have a hemp project, to early on, before you start your application, get us an executive summary, kind of tell us who you are and what you're proposing to do and how you intend to use the funds, to give us a chance to make a preliminary determination. Because we've already discussed it with our national office, and we're going to be looking at hemp projects on a case-by-case basis. So there's a lot that goes into the applications, and we would really prefer you get out in front of it and try to determine early on if you're something that's going to qualify based on what you're planning to do. Applicants must meet the definition of one of these types: independent producer, agricultural producer group, farmer or rancher cooperative, or majority controlled producer-based business. So an individual agricultural producer or entity that is solely owned and controlled by agricultural producers that are directly engaged in the production of the subject agricultural commodity. So the entity being LLC, partnership, corporation. So steering committees, independent producers can be steering committees or agricultural harvesters. A steering committee is of individual independent producers who will form a legal entity that meets the requirements of one of the 4 eligible applicant types. Agricultural harvesters that have a legal right to harvest a primary non-residual commodity, examples, commercial fishermen or loggers. So agricultural producer group is a formal nonprofit membership organization that represents eligible agricultural producers and operates with a mission that includes working on behalf of their members. The majority of the applicants' membership meet the definition of an independent producer, and the majority of the applicants' board of directors meet the definition of an independent producer. So farmer or rancher cooperatives, they're a business owned and controlled by agricultural producers that is incorporated and otherwise identified by the state in which it operates as a cooperatively operated business. And please note the agricultural harvesters do not meet the definition of farmer or rancher, and therefore are not eligible to apply as farmer rancher cooperatives. So a majority controlled producer-based business is a venture means venture greater than 50% of the ownership and control of which is held by one or more producers or one or more entities, percent of the ownership and control which is held by one or more producers. So the term entity, once again, a partnership, a limited liability corporation, limited liability partnership, and a corporation. And I also note that only 10% of available funds will be awarded to eligible applicants in this category. So this is a chart that just kind of breaks it down, kind of gives you a further understanding of it, kind of categorizing them for you. And so all 4 applicant types must currently produce and own more than 50% of the raw commodity that will be used for the value-added product. So always keep that in mind. You've got to be producing 50% or more of the raw commodity yourself. I know in some cases you've got people that buy additional raw commodity to produce a product. That's fine as long as you don't exceed that 50% threshold of what you're buying. You also have to own the product from its raw commodity state through the production of the value-added product during the project, except for mid-tier value chain. Okay, so applicant eligibility, you must have U.S. citizenship and have the legal authority and responsibility. Multiple grant eligibility. So applicants including separate but related entities with greater than 75% common ownership may not submit more than one application in response to a solicitation. Working capital applicants for grants may not submit applications for the same project that they previously received working capital funds for. Proposals and previous recipients should be substantially different in terms of the products and markets and not merely extensions of the previously funded project. So we have seen repeat projects, but everyone has been really good to make sure that they're doing something different with the funds. So keep that in mind, please. Multiple applications. Documentation to verify includes detailed work plan, budget, and scoring criteria to sufficiently demonstrate the project is substantially different. So applicants with an active value-added grant must close out the grant within 90 days of the application deadline to be eligible for a subsequent competition. Project eligibility. So applicants must use one of the following methodologies as defined in the definition of value-added product. So change in physical state, produced in a manner that enhances value of the agricultural commodity, physical segregation, farm or ranch-based renewable activity, or locally produced agricultural food product. So change in physical state, that's an irreversible processing activity that alters the raw agricultural commodity and enhances its value and is something other than a post-harvest process that primarily acts to preserve the commodity for life. So that's milk to cheese, wheat, wool into clothing or rugs, corn into ethanol, livestock into packaged meat. So produced in a manner that enhances value of an agricultural commodity. The value-added product results from the use of a recognizably coherent set of agricultural production practices and growing of the raw agricultural commodities such that a differentiated market identity is created for the resulting product. Non-standard production method that adds value per unit of production over the standard production method and demonstrates this by quantifiable comparison with products produced in the standard manner. So examples of this would be organic carrots, eggs produced from free-range chickens. That's a good example. Physical segregation. Value-added products result from physically separating distance, i.e. distance or structure from agriculture commodity from other varieties of the same commodity on the same farm during production or harvesting, with continued separation during the processing and marketing of the value-added product. So an example would be GMO corn separated from non-GMO corn on the farm during production or harvesting, with continued separation through the marketing process. So farm or ranch-based renewable energy. An agricultural commodity that is used to generate renewable energy on farm or ranch owned or leased by an independent producer applicant that produces the agricultural commodity. And examples, dairy manure into methane and electricity generated on the farm. Corn into biodiesel generated on the farm. Note, generation of energy from wind, solar, and geothermal and hydro sources are not eligible. So locally produced agricultural food product. Any agricultural food product that is marketed and distributed within 400 miles of the product's origin or within the state in which the product is produced. Examples, specific local grapes with characteristics attributable to the growing area sold to the winery that will produce a local wine, local sweet corn advertised and sold at premium as a fresher, locally produced alternative to non-local produce. So all projects must demonstrate an increase in customer base. That is one of the key things to value added. Greater portion of revenue derived from the value added process returned to the producer. So expansion of customer base, per the definition of a value added product, include baseline of the number of current customers for the commodity or the value added product, and include the estimated target number of customers that will be result from the project. So that's the key there, is that you've got to have an increase in customers as a result of the project. So increased revenue return to producers, per the definition, include a baseline of current revenues from the sale of the agricultural commodity or the value-added product, and include an estimated target of increased revenues that will result from the project. Purpose eligibility. So two types of grants, like we discussed before. Planning grant, to pay a qualified third-party consultant for development of feasibility, marketing, business plan related to the processing and or marketing of a value-added product, whereas the working capital grants to pay eligible project expenses related to processing and or marketing of the value-added product. So for that, guys, I would just recommend really take the time to figure out what stage you are in the game and determine which grant best suits you, because we have more people apply for working capital grants, but we have had planning grants in the past that have proved to be successful and kind of let somebody really know what they wanted to do. So I would definitely consider that. Exception for working capital grant. Working capital applications must include a feasibility study and business plan, except independent producers seeking greater than 50,000 for market expansions, and all applicant types seeking less than 50,000. So keep that in mind. Last year we had some folks that luckily had submitted their application early and were able to get that feasibility study and business plan completed prior to the deadline. So definitely make sure you've got all your ducks in a row, because this is a thorough process. Emerging markets. So agricultural producer groups, farmer, rancher, cooperatives, and majority controlled producer-based businesses must show that they have not supplied the proposed product, geographic or demographic market for more than 2 years at the time of application submission. So market expansion project. A project in which the independent producer applicant seeks to expand the market for an existing value-added product produced and marketed by the applicant for at least 2 years at the time of application through the sales to be demonstrated newly to new markets and new customers in existing markets. So type of working capital applications. This is another chart, much like the other one I showed you earlier, that just breaks down kind of some of the things that your options with it, what you need. So emerging market versus market expansion. Emerging markets mandatory for agriculture producer groups, farmer, rancher, cooperatives, and majority controlled. Optional for independent producers, and produce and marketed subject product less than 2 years. New products or existing products entering a new demographic or geographic market. Market expansion is optional for independent producers only. marketing existing product for at least 2 years, and existing product to new markets, existing product to existing markets for new customers only. So matching funds, so they must be in the form of the following: applicant cash, loan or line of credit, or applicant or family member in-kind contributions of goods or services. Applicant provided services limited to 25% of the total project cost, and or third-party cash or third-party in-kind contribution, including non-federal grant sources. And one thing that I wanted to point out for the matching funds, in many cases, we have people that want to include inventory as matching funds. Please keep in mind, if you are going to have inventory as matching funds, it must be a raw commodity. So matching funds must be equal or to at least the grant amount, or at least 50% of the total project costs spent on eligible expenses, spent in advance of grant funding for every dollar of the grant funds dispersed. Not less than an equal amount of matching funds will have been expended prior to submitting the request for the reimbursement from eligible sources without a real or apparent conflict of interest. So eligible, ineligible use of funds. So eligible use of planning grant funds to pay for a qualified consultant to develop a feasibility study, business plan, or marketing plan as associated with the processing and marketing of the value-added product. So eligible use of working capital funds, pay the cost of processing raw commodity into value-added product packaging, labeling, ingredients, promotional materials, advertising, expenses related to agricultural production, planning, building or planning, these are ineligible uses, expenses related to agricultural production, planning, building, or repairing facilities, use of grant funds to pay self or associated parties for subject raw commodity, and ineligible equipment expenses. So I want to just briefly touch on the ineligible equipment expenses in saying that equipment is something that we always see people try to and want to include in this, and I understand why. Keep in mind that the equipment has to be non-fixed equipment, and this is something else that we would recommend. If you've got something that involves equipment, that we would recommend you giving us another little preview, kind of like I mentioned on Hemp, and let us look at it on a case-by-case basis, because our regulations are kind of particular about the way that it's determined for fixed and non-fixed. So there's dollar figures out there and stuff that it's tied to. So definitely keep that in mind on a case-by-case basis for equipment. Limits on eligible uses. Applicant or family member in-kind labor is limited to 25% of the total project cost for both planning and working capital grants. Applicant produced raw commodity may be used as an in-kind match as long as it's appropriately valued. Planning funds may not be used to evaluate production of raw agricultural commodity. So completeness and eligibility. Applicants must contain all required elements to be eligible to compete for funds. Information submitted after the application deadline will not be accepted. So please get your stuff in early. We can't promise you that we'll have time to review it, but if you get it into us, we'll do our best as our field staff to review all applications submitted in time to give you an opportunity to correct things. So that's pretty much all I've got, guys. Does anybody have any questions of me, or how would you prefer everybody wait till the end?
Hal, you're muted.
There we go. Finally. Thanks. Yeah, we can go ahead and take a question now if anybody's got one.
Well, I'm going to be here all day. If nobody has any questions, I'm going to be here all day, so I'll be glad to answer questions.
This is Michael Treadway. I'm under Rachel's name. Chuck.
Yes, sir.
How you doing today? Great information. I couldn't take notes fast enough, but I do know that you guys sent all the documentation, so I'll go ahead and review that again. But I just want to make sure that I kind of feel like we may not as a company be here as a value-added institution, because we we produce a lot of all the, the products, but we do not grow anything. So is that something that's going to hinder us?
From a value-added grant, you have to produce the raw commodity. You wouldn't be eligible if you're not producing the raw commodity, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Because we co-pack for a company there in Georgia that produces peaches, but we don't do anything as far as that actual production.
No, unfortunately, without actually producing any of the raw commodity, you wouldn't be eligible for value added.
Gotcha. So, I don't want to say I'm wasting my time because this is great info, but is this something that's going to benefit me at all or our company?
It does not sound like it based on what you've told me.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend going back over the PowerPoint, and I'm glad you said that. I apologize if I spoke quickly, but we're kind of on a tight timeline and we've got a lot of other speakers and it was a lot of material. So I figured it best you've got the thing to review and ask questions. So I apologize if I went a little fast.
No worry, Chuck. I'll probably reach out to you later in the week. Thank you so much.
Yes, by any means. And anyone that has any questions, feel free to reach out to me by phone or email. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Hey,
Chuck,
Pete.
can I make a comment real quick? This is Pete Nelson. I'm just going to say, if you are in the value add business but are not a producer, there's all sorts of opportunities to organize your producers to go after the VAPG and partner in a different way with you in the value chain. So
That is a good point.
I don't know your business, but we've worked on multiple of these where a processor wanted to work more directly with the growers, and we formed a business with the growers in order to basically, from a farmer perspective, position them in a better position in the value chain and facilitate part of the processing. So there's details in that as well, but there are some different ways to crack the egg.
Very good point, Pete.
No, that is great info. Thanks, Pete.
Chuck?
Yes.
Yeah, this is William Lane. I've just got a quick question. When you were talking about the coverage of the LLC and the partnerships and corporate entities, I didn't see anything relative to trust ownerships of nonprofit facilities. Is that something that's covered under the plan?
I would have to look into that. I don't know if I've ever had anybody ask about a trust. I think as long as you're legally organized, I don't think it would be an issue. But I tell you what, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind putting that to me in an email with your request, and I'll respond to.
Sure, I'll do it. Thanks.
Okay.
Hello, Chuck. This is Reggie
Yes,
Marshall.
sir.
Got a question. Well, could you expound a little bit more on, you talked about one part of your presentation talked about the your match coming from raw material, your match for the value added grant. Does that mean like say if you're raising strawberries and you want to produce strawberry jam, and you're applying for a grant, would you use like the raw material, the strawberry, the actual product, the value of the strawberries to match the funds needed to match the grant?
Yes, that can be some of your match. That would fall under inventory of a raw commodity. Yes. Yeah, you just have to have something to show the market value, and then you have to show the quantity.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chuck,
Hey, Chuck, there's about 4 or 5 questions in the chat. If you start at the bottom and go up, that I think would be beneficial to answer out loud.
Okay. Let's see. And they look like they keep popping up. All right, it's 25%. It is 25% of operating costs that are included in the grant. When will grants be awarded, and is it reimbursement or money up front? Well, it is definitely a reimbursement grant. It's a dollar for dollar match. So you're going to have to put your money in, up front, and then you can request reimbursement request every 30 days. Let's see, 25% of operating costs that are included in the grant. Not sure what it can be used for any of the eligible working capital purposes. So, if part of that operating cost is, then yes. Let's see, would a kombucha producer be eligible for this grant? Okay, I'm gonna ask, what is a kombucha producer? What is that exactly? I don't even know what that is.
This is Addie. I can jump in on that. It's a fermentation actually product. Probably the kombucha, we have to look at it closer and ask first what the raw commodity is used in it. They have to clearly show what the raw commodity used for that is. And second, there might be some of the alcohol regulations involved on that to what's allowed, because there is a 5% usually alcohol in the kombucha drink. So that we might have the individual reach out to us individually and kind of research it a little more.
Okay, thank you, Audia. Would a beginning farmer without previous sales customers be eligible for this grant? I would think the planning grant would be a better fit for you, but you're going to have, because that's what you're going to do is develop your plan. And so the planning grant could potentially be a good fit for a beginning farmer. Okay, let's see. This may seem obvious, but would setting up on-farm meat sales from animals we raise be eligible? Yes, that can be eligible. We've had projects before where people have on-farm stores. So basically the key is that once again, that you're having over 50% of the raw commodity being the meat or the animals that you're going to produce the meat from and then selling it on the farm store. So yes, that would be an eligible purpose. Let's see, if I operate a software as a service utilizing blockchain technology specific to cannabis, I do not grow, but my farmers do and need help reaching international markets. As an applicant, you would have to be the actual producer yourself. Audia, do you have any idea about the
cannabis is still not considered a legal substance under
that's what I was thinking.
Under the federal law, so unfortunately not. But I'm gonna go back to what Pete said earlier, like just for people that are usually in the value chain are involved in other processes, there might still be opportunities with the ag producers that you work with to maybe have them apply and somehow work it in the system. You might not be the applicant for this, but you might encourage ag producers that you're working with and utilizing the system that they apply for the value-added program. But unfortunately, cannabis, unfortunately, those people involved in it, it's still not a recognizable.
Okay, so she's saying hemp cannabis. She just dropped another message down there.
Okay.
So if it's hemp, like I told you before earlier, I would strongly recommend getting in something to us, but it would still fall under the same thing that Audia had just reiterated that Pete had said, that it's going to be more of getting your producers organized to potentially apply, but I would caution them to please definitely send us something in advance to give us an opportunity, because hemp is going to be a really challenging product to do with value added just to meet some of the requirements. So let's see, I'm trying to see if I've gotten every one of them. Let's see, what are the applications for 2021? 2021, March 16th for the electronic, March 22nd for the is the deadline for the paper applications. And let's see, okay. That's up to you if you wanted to write a grant for your farmers. It says, well, I will talk with my farmers grant for all my farmers on the grant proposal. That, that's possible that you could. I mean, it's just, like I said, I would just like caution you to really take in mind of getting us something early that we can take a look at before you get too involved. Would purchase of a mobile slaughter unit not qualify as it is a building? A mobile slaughter unit is something that would definitely fall under equipment if you're talking about actually purchasing that. So, I mean, I would caution you that it's very likely that wouldn't qualify. There's certain thresholds to what under our 2 CFR that we deem for fixed or non-fixed equipment. It has to be non-fixed equipment. And also take in mind too that slaughter is in the production of the value-added product, so there's limitations on that as well. I would definitely suggest submitting something early and let us take a look at it, but I tend to lean towards that mobile slaughter probably would not qualify.
Hey, Chuck,
Does anyone else? Yeah.
there was one question. This is Roe Hughes, USDA. There was one question that we looked over, and I actually talked to Miss Danielle Button last week.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but she had asked, would the extraction process of industrial hemp be value added? As long as she is the grower, that would be eligible. Is that correct?
Well, it's unfortunately, Ro, it's not that simple. And in talking to our national office, they wanted us to have everyone to try to submit us some kind of executive summary telling us what they're doing, and they look at it on a case-by-case basis, because unfortunately all this stuff is regulated by other people, and USDA is going to go with who's regulating it. So, Food and Drug Administration do not always recognize certain things about hemp as it relates to the medicinal qualities and things like that. So it limits our ability to put money into it from a marketing standpoint if it's being marketed that way. So there's lots of little limitations like that. And in talking to our national office, they ask it, we try to get anything like that in early and look at it on a case-by-case basis, because there's so many different ruling bodies in relation to hemp and the production of the products that it makes it a little harder for us to take a stance. So we're having to look at them on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing out the question that I missed.
That's all right. So not a yes, not a definite no, but let us look at it. Let us see what you're proposing, and we'll get back with you on that for sure.
That's the key that I would put emphasis on in relation to related to equipment and anything related to hemp. Those are things that we're wanting to take an early look at and try to, because I don't want anyone, there's a lot that goes into these grant applications, and I don't want anyone to put all the work into them when it's something that we can determine quickly that we can or can't, work with. And, I'd hate for somebody to put in all the work if we can't do it. Let's see, producer, there's another question popped up. Would a producer-owned co-op qualify? Yes, a producer-owned co-op can qualify, but that would fall into the agricultural producer group. And let's see, can producers apply to this grant annually? That goes back to the completion of your previous project. You're required to have the project complete within 90 days, I think, of application is what it said. Is there a restriction on the cadence of application? So if you receive a grant, do you have a period of non-application? So in theory, if you're the same entity, you're going to have to complete your grant before you can apply for another one. You have to have it be complete within 90 days of application. Are there any other questions?
Chuck, there was one that you may have already addressed this, I'm not sure, but a little ways up in the chat was asked if the producer is not in Tennessee, but the company that's doing the value-added processing is in Tennessee, is that are they still eligible to apply? Do you really look that specifically at state?
And you're going to have to. Well, I mean, if you're talking about the company that's doing the processing, applying, then they're not producing their own raw commodity. So I don't know that would really work. It might get back to more of what Pete was talking about actually getting some of those agricultural producers to apply.
Okay.
More so than that.
Okay. All right. Well, really good discussion. I appreciate your fielding all these, Chuck, and thank you for giving us this information. But hopefully, Chuck and some of the others will be available throughout the day to help address some questions that are going to come up with this. So I'm going to try to stop.